Once you've learned the principles of relative age dating, you can apply those to a cross-section to figure out what happened in what order. And so we have this cross-section here, and most of these units are sedimentary. So T across the top, this W green unit, this B, and this S unit, those are all sedimentary. The rest of these layers extending down are also sedimentary. We also have this igneous intrusion, which I marked with a G, so let's say it's a granite that cooled below the surface. And then this unit R, I kind of labeled out here, so make sure you see that. And then we have two faults. I just labeled them fault A and fault B, or FA and then FB. So when you're ordering things, typically you actually want to start with the oldest thing, start at the bottom. Like think about building something up. And so if we look at this, we would see that we would start here. The very lowest unit is this unit M. So I'm actually going to write that at the very bottom over here, M. That, and we're going to work our way up. And then the next unit that we can see got laid on top here would have been our R unit. So let's do our R here. Okay, so R got laid on top. And then the next unit up across all of these are going to be A, so that's nice and easy there. And then we would go to E next, that's next. And then we actually have a choice. I'm going to go ahead and go through one of the possibilities, and I'll loop back and talk about that G can actually come in a couple different spots. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to build this all the way up. So I'm going to go E, Y, and then P. So that's Y is next. And then P would be the last one in this stack. So I've actually created this whole stack. And now I'm going to say, okay, that's all just superposition from the bottom up, the oldest to the youngest. And now I'm going to put my intrusion in. So this is cross-cutting relationships, where we say that this granite didn't just come in and be out in the air and then throw some rocks around it, right? We had the rocks already there, and then our granite came in. So our granite would be next in this particular ordering. So I'm going to do G there. Now, if I look at that, the G is split by this fault, as is the rest of those units. So I'd want to put my fault in next. I can't jump to S, because if I put S in and then put my fault in, I would expect the fault to have cut through that. So I have to throw the fault in there now. So I'm going to put FA. My next one. All right, so now we can keep building things up. And so we're going to do S, B, and W because of the next three in that stack. So S, B, and W. So let's put that on there. And I'm going to come down here. Okay, so I put those three in. And again, I wouldn't want to throw T right on there, because if I had, then I would expect this fault to cut all the way through, but it doesn't. It stops there. So I want to catch my FB fault and then put my T on, just cap it on top of there. All right, so I said I would loop back to my granite, which I'm going to do. I'm also going to talk about these little squiggly lines, and I'm going to talk about kind of the tilting events in a second. So with my G unit, what I could actually do is I could build up M, R, A, and E, and then put G in, and then do Y and P. And I can do that because G has no relationship to Y and P. So G really could go after E. It could also go after Y. It has to go after P. So we chose to put it after P here, but you could really insert it into these other locations because it doesn't have a relationship to Y and P. Now, most likely we just built the whole thing up and then put the intrusion in, but it is a possible solution to put those in those other spots. So I will put a little G here and a little G here to denote that you could insert those in there. I also wanted to talk about the tilting event, so when this might have happened. And so likely what's going to happen is you have to build up M all the way through P, and then you would have gotten a tilting event in there. So that would have come after that. And the last thing that I want to talk about is this little squiggly line on top and this squiggly line here. Those are just representing erosional surfaces. So if you wanted to put that in, for example, you would end up putting You would build everything up, and maybe W would be even much higher. It would have gotten faulted. There might be some other units up in here, and then it eroded down into that material and then capped a T on top. And you could envision a similar scenario happening here between S and these angular units down below.